You are welcome to yet another episode of HN What's Your Say? The #1 listening show, where we discuss real issues with real people like you. We are still featuring R. Kelly. Real name Robert Sylvester Kelly. Also known as the R&B King. In this episode, we will explore the dubious strategies employed by prosecutors, the implications of federalizing state-level allegations and why these tactics raise serious questions about fairness and justice. To understand the stakes in R. Kelly's New York appeal, we need to take a brief look at his rise to the status of the king of R&B. R. Kelly dominated music charts for decades with hits, such as I Believe I Can Fly, which earned him Grammy Awards and global acclaim. But alongside his professional success came allegations of said legal misconduct. And worse still, these claims were coming from the very same people who claimed to love and care about him and whom he loved back so dearly. In 2021, Mr. Kelly was convicted in New York on charges including racketeering, violations of the Mann Act and forced labor. He was sentenced to 30 years in prison. But how did allegations which seemed to involve minor state-level issues morph into a federal case with such severe consequences? During the New York appeal hearing, one of the judges is heard asking the state attorney whether she realizes she risks federalizing what would be state charges to carry a much bigger consequence for the defendant. Now listen.
I'm a little concerned about applying the forced labor statute in this context because it seems that you run the risk of really federalizing all kinds of state sexual assault and being able to turn it into federal offenses with much different consequences for the individuals. Can you address that concern?
Yes, of course.
In R. Kelly's New York trial, the prosecution employed a tactic that has become increasingly common in high-profile cases, and that is federalizing state-level crimes. Here's what we mean. Allegations that might typically be handled in state court were reframed as federal offenses by connecting them to broader criminal activity that never existed, such as racketeering or interstate commerce, attracting the equally inappropriate Mann Act charges. This move significantly raises the stakes because federal charges often carry harsher penalties and require less direct evidence to link disparate acts together. The prosecution's decision to invoke the Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, commonly known as RICO, is particularly notable. Historically, RICO was designed to combat organized crime syndicates like the mafia. It allowed prosecutors to target an entire criminal enterprise rather than individual crimes. In R. Kelly's case, prosecutors argued that he ran a criminal enterprise consisting of his entourage and staff who allegedly helped him recruit and control women and girls for illegal activities. But does this framework hold up under scrutiny? No, it doesn't. One of the most contentious aspects of Kelly's New York conviction is whether the RICO statute was appropriately applied. The enterprise described by prosecutors was little more than a loose association of employees and associates, people who worked for Kelly in various capacities but did not team up with a common purpose to participate in any criminal activity. Legal experts have raised concerns that stretching the definition of an enterprise in this way sets a dangerous precedent. If a musical artist team can be labeled as a criminal organization based on allegations of misconduct, then it gets really scary for everyone else in business. Could other executives or even corporations face similar treatment if a member or staff is accused of wrongdoing? Moreover, by framing Kelly's actions as part of a broader enterprise, prosecutors sidestepped the need to prove each individual allegation beyond a reasonable doubt. Instead, they created a narrative that connected otherwise unrelated incidents under one umbrella charge known as RICO, which made it easier to secure a conviction without proof. Another key element of the case was the use of the Mann Act, which was also part of the government strategy. This law, passed in 1910, was originally intended to combat human trafficking and white slavery. However, it's renowned for its bad reputation of providing an avenue for unfairly locking up successful black celebrities in this racially divided nation. In Kelly's case, prosecutors used it to charge him with transporting individuals across state lines for said illegal purposes, thereby generalizing and not having to prove one purpose at a time. When someone simply alleges R. Kelly transported women across states for immoral purposes, it's easy to believe, even though it may be hard to specify which immoral acts one at a time. The forced labor charges also add a troubling layer to the case. Prosecutors alleged that Kelly coerced individuals into unpaid labor or services, leveraging his control over them to maintain power. However, applying forced labor statutes in this way risks broadening their scope beyond their intended purpose. For instance, actions that might typically be considered simply conflicting in a personal relationship could now be framed as forced labor under federal law. Using federal forced labor charges in this context raises questions about whether the statute is being stretched to fit a narrative rather than addressing genuine labor trafficking. Applying the Mann Act and forced labor statutes in cases like Kelly's criminalizes behavior that might not otherwise qualify as trafficking or coerced labor. For example, flying an adult woman to another state to attend music shows, which is not necessarily criminal, could be reinterpreted as a federal crime under these laws. This expansive use of federal statutes underscores the need for clear legal boundaries to avoid confusion. R. Kelly's legal team has in fact challenged his conviction on several grounds, many of which center on the issues we've just discussed. They argue that the prosecution overreached by using RICO, the Mann Act, and forced labor charges to inflate the severity of the allegations, and this is largely true. Additionally, Mr. Kelly's constitutional rights were openly violated during the trial, including his right to a fair and impartial jury. One of the key points in the appeal is the jury selection process. By now, everyone contends that potential jurors were not adequately vetted for bias given the extensive media coverage and public outcry surrounding the case. In such a high-profile trial, ensuring an unbiased jury is crucial to upholding the integrity of the justice system. Another issue is the admissibility of certain evidence. Court allowed prejudicial testimony and evidence that should have been excluded, further tipping the scales against R. Kelly. If the appeals court agrees, it could result in a new trial or even a reversal of the conviction. By federalizing allegations and employing aggressive prosecutorial tactics like we saw with the case against R. Kelly, we are compromising the principles of justice. In fact, this trend towards federalization of every matter undermines the role of state courts and erodes protections for defendants. When crimes that are traditionally handled at the state level are elevated to federal court, it often results in longer sentences and fewer opportunities for anyone to get justice. If you want to be featured in our video releases, send us your clips by emailing them to hnnewsroom242@gmail.com or use Google Drive for larger files. Be sure to include your name and any details you'd like us to know. We can't wait to showcase your contributions. That is all we had for you today on HN What's Your Say. To keep updated whenever we post a new video, subscribe to this channel now. Also remember to hit the bell icon and enable notifications. And feel free to share your opinions with us in the comment section below, and let us know if you would like us to publish your views in our next release. We value all our subscribers' opinions.